My parents never invested a single dollar in their 30s. Not $1. If they had, they could easily be millionaires today, living comfortably in retirement without financial stress. Instead, decades of missed opportunity left them with barely $15,000 in retirement savings. In this video, I'll show you exactly what they missed, why it happened, the psychology behind their decisions, and most importantly, how you can avoid making the same devastating mistake that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Both my parents are 62 years old now, standing at the doorstep of retirement with a financial reality that keeps them awake at night. They worked hard their entire lives, and I mean genuinely hard. My dad ran his own small business for over 30 years, putting in 60-hour weeks regularly. My mom worked part-time while raising 3 kids and managing our household. They sacrificed, they hustled, they provided for our family. But here's the painful truth: they never really got into investing. No stocks, no mutual funds, no retirement accounts beyond the bare minimum, no high-yield savings accounts, just a regular checking and savings account earning almost nothing, maybe 0.5% interest if they were lucky. Growing up in a family of 5, we weren't wealthy by any means, but we were comfortable. We had what we needed. My parents provided well, gave us good childhoods, and worked incredibly hard. But investing and financial education were never prioritized or even discussed. And now, as retirement rapidly approaches, the devastating impact of that single decision, or more accurately, that lack of decision, is painfully, heartbreakingly clear. Let's break down the actual numbers, because seeing this in concrete terms is what makes the lesson stick. My parents have roughly $15,000 combined in their IRA accounts. $15,000. After working for 4 decades. Think about that for a moment. 40 years of labor, and their retirement nest egg wouldn't even cover 6 months of basic living expenses. Meanwhile, decades of keeping money in a standard bank savings account earned them almost nothing, maybe $10 to $15 per month in interest at best. The bank was essentially borrowing their money for free, lending it out at higher rates and giving them scraps in return. Inflation was quietly eating away at the purchasing power of whatever they did save, making their money worth less every single year. Now let me show you what could have been. Imagine if they had invested just $200 per month starting in their early 30s. That's about $50 per week, less than many people spend on coffee and lunch out. If they had put that money into a simple S&P 500 index fund, which has historically averaged around 10% annual returns over long periods, that money would have grown to well over $300,000 by today. $300,000, just from consistent, modest investing that most middle-class families can afford. But here's where it gets even more striking. If they had started in their mid-20s instead of their 30s, or if they'd managed to invest $300 per month instead of $200, or if they'd gradually increased their contributions as their income grew over the years, we're talking about portfolios worth $500,000, $700,000, potentially over $1 million. That's not speculation or get-rich-quick fantasy. That's basic mathematics and the proven historical performance of diversified market investments. That's the true power of compound interest and time in the market. It's why financial literacy isn't just helpful, it's absolutely critical. The difference between a comfortable retirement and struggling through your golden years often comes down to decisions made decades earlier, decisions that seem small at the time but compound into life-changing outcomes. I didn't start investing until my late 20s, and looking back, that delay cost me tens of thousands of dollars in potential growth. But I can't entirely blame myself, because investing simply wasn't discussed in my home growing up. My parents didn't understand it themselves, so how could they possibly teach me? This pattern is incredibly common across millions of American families. Financial education doesn't get passed down because the previous generation never learned it either. My parents grew up in an era where you worked hard, put money in the bank, bought a house if you could, and hoped for the best. Investing was seen as something for wealthy people, for Wall Street insiders, for people with financial advisors and disposable income. It seemed complicated, risky, even slightly irresponsible, like gambling with money that should be kept safe. Without proper guidance or education, most people default to what feels familiar and safe, keeping money in low-interest savings accounts, avoiding anything that involves risk, and hoping their hard work alone will be enough to carry them through retirement. It's an understandable instinct: protect what you have. But unfortunately, this defensive approach means watching incredible opportunities slip away quietly over decades. The stock market went through multiple bull runs during my parents' working years. The 1980s, the 1990s, the 2010s, periods where consistent investors saw their portfolios grow exponentially. My parents were on the sidelines for all of it, not because they were lazy or irresponsible, but because they simply didn't know. Nobody taught them. They didn't understand that investing wasn't gambling, it was the primary vehicle through which middle-class Americans build wealth. This knowledge gap is one of the biggest drivers of wealth inequality in America. Two families earning identical incomes can end up in completely different financial situations 30 years later, and the difference often comes down to financial literacy and investment behavior, not income or work ethic. To really understand what my parents missed, we need to talk about compound interest, which Albert Einstein allegedly called the eighth wonder of the world. Whether he actually said that or not, the sentiment is absolutely correct. Compound interest is one of the most powerful forces in personal finance. Here's how it works. When you invest money, you earn returns. But then, those returns themselves start earning returns. Then those returns on returns start earning returns. It's exponential growth, not linear. In the early years, the impact seems modest. But after a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, the numbers become staggering. Let me give you some concrete examples. Even a modest $100 per month invested consistently in a diversified stock portfolio starting in your 30s could grow to over $100,000 by retirement age. That's $100 per month. Many people spend more than that on subscriptions they barely use or impulse purchases they don't need. If you can invest $200 per month starting at age 30, and you maintain that until age 65, assuming a 10% average annual return, you'd have approximately $380,000. At $300 per month, you'd have over $570,000. At $500 per month, which is very achievable for middle-class dual-income households, you'd have nearly $950,000, approaching millionaire status. But here's the really important part. Compound interest doesn't just reward large investments. It rewards time and consistency above all else. Someone who invests $200 per month starting at age 25 will end up with significantly more money than someone who invests $400 per month starting at age 40, even though the second person is contributing twice as much money per month. That's why people who learn to invest in their 20s and early 30s can retire comfortably, travel, help their kids with college, and leave inheritances, while others who earn similar salaries throughout their careers struggle to make ends meet in retirement. The difference isn't income, it's financial literacy and action taken early. So what are the critical lessons we can extract from my parents' experience? What can their struggle teach us to avoid? First and most obvious, don't wait to start investing. Every single year you delay costs you compound growth that you can never get back. You cannot make up for lost time in investing the same way you can in other areas of life. The 20s and 30s you spent not investing are gone forever, along with the exponential growth those decades would have provided. Start today, not next month, not next year, today. Second, learn financial basics and make it a priority. Understanding stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, index funds, retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs, tax-advantaged investing. This isn't optional knowledge for anyone who wants financial security. It's foundational. You don't need to become a Wall Street expert, but you need to understand the basics of how wealth is built in modern economies. There are countless free resources, books, podcasts, YouTube channels, online courses that can teach you everything you need to know. Third, consistency matters far more than perfection. You don't need to time the market or pick winning stocks. You don't need to invest huge lump sums. Small, regular contributions, invested consistently regardless of market conditions, will outperform sporadic large investments almost every time. Set up automatic monthly transfers from your checking account to your investment account and let it happen automatically. Remove the emotional decision-making from the equation. Fourth, and this is something I feel strongly about, pass down knowledge to the next generation. Teach your children about money, investing, compound interest, and financial responsibility. Break the cycle of financial illiteracy that may have affected your family for generations. My parents couldn't teach me what they didn't know, but I'm making sure my children will understand these concepts from an early age. Give your kids the gift of financial education. It's more valuable than any inheritance. And finally, understand that financial security is proactive, not reactive. You can't wait until you're 55 to start thinking seriously about retirement. By then, you've missed the majority of your compounding years. Financial planning should begin the moment you start earning income. So how do you actually avoid missing out like my parents did? What are the concrete, actionable steps you can take right now? First, if you haven't already, open a retirement account immediately. If your employer offers a 401k, sign up and start contributing. If you're self-employed or your employer doesn't offer retirement benefits, open an IRA. You can do this through companies like Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab in about 20 minutes online. The account itself is free to open. Second, consider low-cost index funds as your primary investment vehicle. These funds track the overall market, like the S&P 500, and are historically reliable over long time periods. They're diversified, which means your risk is spread across hundreds of companies, and they have extremely low fees. You don't need to pick individual stocks or try to outsmart the market. Index fund investing is the strategy used by countless millionaires and recommended by investment legends like Warren Buffett. Third, commit to investing even small amounts consistently. Even $50 to $200 per month will add up significantly over time. Don't fall into the trap of thinking you need thousands of dollars to start. You don't. Start with whatever you can afford, even if it's just $25 per month, and increase it over time as your income grows. The key is establishing the habit and getting time on your side. Fourth, if your employer offers matching contributions on your 401k, contribute at least enough to get the full match. This is literally free money. If your employer matches 50% of your contributions up to 6% of your salary, that's an instant 50% return on your investment. There's no other guaranteed return like that anywhere in investing. Fifth, understand the difference between short-term and long-term money. Keep an emergency fund in a high-yield savings account. You need liquid cash for unexpected expenses. But your long-term retirement money should be invested in the market where it can actually grow. Keeping retirement savings in regular savings accounts is essentially guaranteeing that you won't have enough to retire comfortably. And finally, educate yourself continuously. Read books like The Simple Path to Wealth or A Random Walk Down Wall Street. Listen to financial podcasts. Watch educational YouTube channels. The more you understand, the more confident you'll feel, and the better decisions you'll make. Here's the biggest lesson from my parents' story, the thing I want you to really internalize. It's not about how much you make, it's about what you do with what you make. Financial education and taking early action matter far more than your salary level. My parents worked incredibly hard for decades. They were disciplined, responsible, and provided for their family. But without investing strategically, their wealth simply didn't grow beyond their salaries. They traded time for money, which is the most limited form of income generation because you only have so many hours in a day and so many working years in a lifetime. Meanwhile, someone earning a similar income but investing wisely could be financially independent years earlier, could retire comfortably, could weather financial emergencies without panic, and could leave something behind for their children and grandchildren. The difference isn't intelligence, work ethic, or luck. It's financial literacy and disciplined action. Wealth isn't just earned through labor. It's grown strategically through investing. Your money needs to work for you while you sleep, while you're on vacation, while you're spending time with family. That's what investing provides. Money that makes money exponentially over time. If you've been putting off investing, if you've told yourself you'll start next year or when you have more money or when you understand it better, stop. Take action today. Open an investment account this week. Set up automatic monthly contributions even if they're small. Start learning about index funds, retirement accounts, and compound interest. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Maybe a family member who's making the same mistakes my parents made, a friend who keeps talking about investing but never starts, or even yourself as a reminder to stay committed. And here's something important. It's never too late to start. Even if you're in your 40s or 50s, starting today is infinitely better than not starting at all. My parents are beginning to invest now at 62, which won't solve their retirement challenges, but it's still better than nothing. Every dollar invested today is a dollar that can grow. But understand this clearly, the sooner you start, the more dramatic and life-changing the impact will be. My parents' story could have been completely different if they'd understood these principles 30 years ago. But your story doesn't have to follow the same path. You have access to information, tools, and investment platforms that they never had. You can learn from their mistakes without having to experience the consequences yourself. Start today. Invest consistently. Educate yourself continuously. And teach others what you learn so they don't have to learn it the hard way. The missed millions can absolutely be avoided, but only if you take action now. Not tomorrow. Not next month. No. Your future self will thank you. I promise.